Miyasen,
Danse, Tatamskatna. Hello, my name is Ernestine Starr from the Star Blanket Cree Nation.
And I am Joseph Natauhau from Sturgeon Lake First Nation. Tatamskatna, Atlanite, Ambawashte, Aninchigwa. Hello.
This project was inspired and completed through Indigenous traditions and protocols of doing things in a good way.
This project was completed by First Nations for First Nations. Ernestine and I will share some of the key findings and action items of the report that have come from the many voices of our people. As promised to the participants, we are pleased to inform you that your voices were heard loud and clear.
An impressive 4,499 people were engaged by this project. The voices of the participants identified 16 priorities in 5 prominent themes. These 5 themes and their related priorities that become the basis for the key actions proposed in this report. The main actions recommended by the collective participant voice include the following.
In order to reform programs and services, First Nations Voices for Reform call for access to services that are holistic, interconnected, and reflective of local culture. Investments in resources to support families and communities. Services that are locally available in rural and remote communities. In order to honor youth, First Nations Voices for Reform call for mentorship opportunities to motivate and empower youth. An action plan that ensures youth are included and listened to. In order to shift practice approaches, First Nations Voices for Reform call for a First Nations case management system, First Nations standards of practice and measurement, a culturally respectful child welfare framework that goes beyond child protection, policies that strengthen families through kinship and community connection. In order to build capacity, First Nations Voices for Reform call for engaged service providers who participate in the community. Strategic partnerships based on shared protocols for collective outcomes. Human resource initiatives that offer incentives and contribute to healthy working environments. In order to address systemic factors, First Nation Voices for Reform call for establishment of a National Children's Advocate or Children's Commissioner, equitable, flexible funding that addresses community needs, capital investments into First Nations child and family service agencies, training and education on the legal aspects of First Nations child welfare.
These actions are not presented in order of importance or priority. They are connected to broader principles and themes that are complementary and interrelated.
Guided by the words of elders and the principle of by First Nations, for First Nations, this project exposes the complex, multi-layered issues impacting contemporary child welfare and points to the beneficial outcomes that may result from bringing Indigenous worldviews and ways into reform efforts. An approach founded in culture that is sufficiently resourced and which draws upon proven strengths and relational goodwill can indeed produce valuable results with real potential to make substantial positive changes to persistently intractable social issues.
These results will help shape the priorities for reform in First Nations child welfare and will be used locally, provincially, and nationally. The report can be found on the Saskatchewan First Nations Family and Community Institute website.
In conclusion, the method the Institute has used to design and implement the Voices for Reform project has proved to be successful in Saskatchewan and supports an overall collective approach.
We invite you to read and review the process, methodology, and results of the report to fully understand the voices of participants in reforming First Nations child welfare in Saskatchewan.
We honor and thank the elders and the many people throughout Saskatchewan who prayed and smudged for good energy, strength, wisdom, and clarity of purpose for those who collaborated on this project and for those who had the courage to share their voices for reform.
Asamina epitakutit niwa kumagan ota oma kitaskino